Yesterday, I made a trade. Looking back at that trade, I don't know if I really evaluated it enough beforehand. And since making it, I've really overthought about it. I've lost sleep. I've had my mind racing because I'm looking at the trade and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. It just looks ugly. But essentially yesterday, or last night, I inquired about Chuba Hubbard and I offered Kenneth Walker and another piece. And the trade eventually developed into Kenneth Walker, Brandon Ayuk, and Jatavian Sanders for Chuba Hubbard, Christian Watson, and a third-round pick in 2026. Now, I think what's really clouding my judgment the most is the name value. Because you hear Kenneth Walker, you hear runner-up in Rookie of the Year from a couple seasons ago, you hear second-round pick, you hear Heisman candidate at Michigan State, you hear a good player. You hear Brandon Ayuk, you hear $30 million, first-round pick, he's put up 1,300 receiving yards before. You hear Chuba Hubbard, and you're like, I thought that guy stunk. I thought that was a backup. Didn't they just sign Miles Sanders last season? Didn't they just draft Jonathan Brooks? Well, that's what's going through my mind, and it's all wrong. It's not exactly the right way to be looking at this thing, because I did want Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard's a good player. Chuba Hubbard just put up 1,200 yards this year. In fact, he had 250 carries, 1,195 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He averaged 4.8 a carry. He just got a 9. He got a 4-year extension, $33 million, so roughly 9 a year. And he's only one of 2 running backs signed through the 2028 season. The other being Ramondre Stevenson, which is a deal that I still am very shocked happened. But I have to remember why I wanted Chuba Hubbard, because this name value is just clouding me up. However, I do think Kenneth Walker is a great player, and I do have faith in him. I have a lot of faith in Brandon Ayuk. I still think he's going to bounce back and come back strong. But it's all very dependent and contingent on other factors. What really led me to put this trade through was I can't really wait on Kenneth Walker, and I can't really rely on Brandon Ayuk. I'm pissed off that I traded Ayuk because I need depth. He was my wide receiver 5. And now I got Christian Watson in return, who I have zero faith in. Christian Watson is a very fragile player. He gets injured often. He played 15 games last season, which is good for him. But incredibly inconsistent, and the Packers are 1,000% going to address the wide receiver position in this offseason. He's never a guy I was high on, and never a guy I really was interested in drafting or looking at. He's a great kid, has the right mentality, has the right team mentality, puts the team first. So, fantastic locker room presence. We're talking fantasy football here. He's not an asset I want to keep. He's not an asset that I believe has a lot of value, let alone any. So, I just needed a wide receiver back in that trade, and that's what we were able to come to a compromise on. And then the third round pick was a must-have because of Christian Watson's lack of skill and production. Now, Kenneth Walker, this past season, strained his oblique again, caught a couple of injuries, couldn't finish the year, played 11 games. Since coming into the league, he's sprained his ankle, he's strained his oblique, he's had a hernia. It's a lot of just random injuries popping up for him, and he just can't stay on the field. But when he was on the field, he had 153 carries, 573 yards, and 7 touchdowns on the ground. He had 53 targets, 36 catches, 300 yards receiving, 299, and 1 touchdown. He averaged 3.7 yards a carry. It was not an efficient year. It was not a productive year. Fantasy football wise, he averaged a little upwards of 16 points a game, which is impressive. That is great for running back too. Now Zach Charbonnet, on the other hand, 135 carries, 569 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. He averaged 4.2, which had me wondering, why is Zach Charbonnet 0.5 yards more efficient than Kenneth Walker? He played a full season. He played 17 games. Kenneth Walker only played 11. But Zach Charbonnet racked up 52 targets, 42 catches, 340 yards receiving, and a touchdown. He finished above Kenneth Walker only by 2 spots in fantasy football rankings. Kenneth Walker is the better player. I'm not arguing that here. He is better. But Zach Charbonnet is cause for concern. I don't know what that's looking like going forward. Kenneth Walker has 1 year left on his contract. Will he re-sign with Seattle? Will he test free agency? Who will he go to? It's a lot of curiosity. It's a lot of things that I don't know. Charbonnet has 2 years left. If Kenneth Walker re-signs, it's a lot that I don't know how that backfield and how that offense is going to play out. Now, Chuba Hubbard has a similar concern in Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks was the only running back drafted in round 2 of last year. He's a good player. The reason I'm not too concerned about Jonathan Brooks is because he just tore his ACL again after recovering from an ACL injury. Do I think that Jonathan Brooks is going to be a good player in this league now? I don't. I think his value has plummeted. 2 ACL tears, not a great look. Great athlete, still young. It's possible he comes back, but they just signed Chuba Hubbard to that 4-year, $33 million extension. They're investing in Chuba Hubbard. I saw that, and I said, let me go target this guy. Let me see what he's about. I had him a couple years ago, too. I picked him up off the waiver wire, and then I dropped him. And it's everybody that I dropped that ends up being great. I dropped Kyron Williams before he got good. I dropped Tua before he popped off. I have these guys, and then I let them go just way too early. And if I kept all these guys, the value, the talent I could have had on my team, the depth, or the talent I could have traded for, But hindsight's 20/20. I didn't know it at the time. Now, me saying all of this, I still don't really know how to evaluate this trade. I think Chuba Hubbard's in for another great year. I think Kenneth Walker has a lot of potential still. He's young. He won't turn 25 until next October. What's Charbonnet's role going to be like? How are they going to split? It's a lot to unpack here, and it's a lot I've been thinking about. Christian Watson's definitely ruining the trade for me. Sending Ayuk off is definitely ruining the trade for me. Chuba Hubbard for Kenneth Walker, I'm happy with. I can live with. The 3rd round pick is great. Jatavian Sanders, I like Jatavian as a player. I like him as a prospect. I think I had him number 2 on my board last year. Maybe 3. But I have enough tight end depth, so I wasn't really too concerned with that. I think this trade could age well, but at the same time, I think it has a much better chance to age poorly for me. Will I move on? Will I won't? Will I won't? I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think or say. What are your thoughts on Chuba Hubbard going forward? Your thoughts on Kenneth Walker going forward? Ayuk, Christian Watson? Let me know. I'm very, very open to opinion, and I'd love to hear what everybody else has to say. I don't like to hear myself talk the entire time. If you think I lost this trade terribly, there's a very good shot I did, and you might be entirely correct. If you think I won, that makes me feel a lot better. At the end of the day, Ayuk was on my bench, need an upgrade with Kenneth Walker. Chuba Hubbard could be the answer going forward for 2. We'll see. I'm not too confident in it, but if that changes, we'll see, But that's all I have for today. Appreciate you guys listening, and then I'll hit you back with another video very, very shortly.